People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit going on around there.
It's a lot. Yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
Sheryl Swoopes once grabbed a mic and went on a mission to warn everyone about the Indiana Fever, making it sound like free agents were avoiding the team due to a toxic locker room and internal chaos. It was a bold claim. Too bad time proved it completely wrong.
What kind of things do you feel?
I'm not in the locker room.
Okay.
But
I'm
talking about more social media.
Okay. It's a turn. It's a turn, right? It's really a turn of the tides.
Well, Gil, here's my point. The beginning of the year, right? Everybody saw.
Fast forward to today, and Indiana just shut down that narrative by crushing free agency. And leading the charge, not just any fan in a Fever jersey, it's Sue Bird. Yes, that's Sue Bird. But before we dive into her masterclass in straight talk, let's take a moment to give Swoopes take the light roasting it deserves.
Peeps, Sheryl Swoopes is been missing. Sheryl Swoopes is MIA. They got a APB out for Sheryl Swoopes. If you see Sheryl Swoopes, she did a lot of talking a few months ago about the Indiana Fever, the locker room environment, how people didn't want to play there, how people wanted to leave.
This wasn't just a casual hot take from a rookie podcaster. It was a Hall of Famer going all in on tearing down Indiana's reputation. Swoopes didn't just raise concerns. She basically hit the panic button, warning that Indiana was where talent went to fade away. She called the locker room a disaster and insisted no real star would choose to play there. According to her, Caitlin Clark wasn't joining a team. She was stepping into basketball purgatory.
That takes us to Indiana, which I think everyone agrees right now has gone from, a team that made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round. They were building all these young pieces, of course, Caitlin Clark, to now an immediate contender with all the moves that they.
Turns out Indiana is now the destination. Free agents aren't avoiding it. They're rushing to join the Caitlin Clark era. And guess who sees the reality? Sue Bird. And when Sue talks, the entire league listens.
I think Natasha Howard certainly stands out. I loved playing with Tosh.
But you cannot say enough about
Tosh. I really enjoyed playing with her. I think she really is she's just this glue player that doesn't get enough shine for what she does, because a lot of what she does doesn't show up in the box score, but she just is like always in the right place at the right time. And a player like that, I think complements what Indiana is built.
Sue Bird doesn't do fluff, and she's not chasing headlines. This is a 4-time WNBA champion, 5-time Olympic gold medalist, and one of the sharpest minds in women's basketball history. When she speaks, it's not just an opinion, it's a verdict.
So Sue Bird is one of the greatest point guards of all time in the WNBA. And she's someone who obviously is a part owner in the Seattle Storm. So hyping up another team is a bit of a conflict of interest, if we're being honest.
Let's be clear, Sue didn't hop on the Fever hype train with pom-poms. She did what any seasoned legend would do, urged people to pump the brakes on calling them title favorites. Classic Sue, calm, measured, and reminding everyone that championships aren't won on Twitter or through highlight reels of deep threes.
Obviously, through trade, added Sophie Cunningham, a player that, I would say a 3-and-D type player who has, been to the finals, so has that playoff experience. She's also just tough. She's mentally tough. She's physically tough. She brings an edge to them. And then last but not least, they added DeWanna Bonner, which really I think is the one that for most people took it to another level. So now you're like, oh, they're.
But if you really listen to Sue, you'll realize she wasn't throwing shade. She was sounding the alarm. Beneath her calm tone, the message was loud and clear. Indiana is building something special. And it's not just the Caitlin Clark highlight reel. Though let's be real, she's making defenders look like traffic cones and dishing out assists like turnovers are contagious. Sue sees the bigger picture.
The biggest part of DB joining this team is that she's already played for Steph. So I think that's going to help bridge the gap, because as we go along, we're going to talk about Vegas and Seattle, Atlanta. It's really going to be which
Stephanie
team.
White being the head coach of,
right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
Was the head coach of Connecticut, now the head coach of Indiana.
Yeah. So it's really going to be the team that finds their chemistry. This season is short. I mean, they're adding games, but it's still pretty short season.
Still short.
And it's
Still
going to be
just
the
summer.
team that finds chemistry. So having Stephanie White there, having already coached DB, really does help.
Aaliyah Boston locking down the paint like it's her personal fortress. Kelsey Mitchell finally getting the recognition she's earned after grinding through the tough years. Lexi Hull bringing the grit and glue every contender needs. And now, veterans are lining up like it's 2016 free agency all over again. This is what Sheryl Swoopes didn't see coming. Caitlin Clark didn't just change the narrative. She rewrote the entire playbook.
Kelsey Mitchell's balling, Caitlin continuing to impress, and she's going to break records nonstop for the next couple of years. Yeah. It's just going to be a constant record.
This isn't the Indiana Fever team people used to overlook. This is the team fans can't stop watching. Ticket sales are through the roof, jerseys are flying off the shelves, and national networks are practically fighting for the rights to air their games. Players around the league suddenly want in because joining Caitlin Clark means TV time, playoff buzz, and a chance to build something legendary. Sue Bird sees it. She's been that player, the one who draws stars and sets the tone for a dynasty. And now she sees in Clark and this young Fever squad the blueprint for another empire. This is how greatness starts, with a generational rookie, a rock-solid foundation, and veterans ready to ride the wave.
Something about the way she plays the game, her passing, her shooting, that people really identify with. So I really feel like we're poised and we're set up for a great, successful next era of Fever basketball.
While Sue Bird is out here calmly mapping Indiana's rise like a general strategizing for battle, Sheryl Swoopes is watching her credibility disappear faster than her hot takes get debunked. The Fever aren't a cautionary tale. They're the future. And if the rest of the league doesn't wake up soon, they'll be watching Indiana hoist trophies while they're stuck reminiscing over last season's cold takes.
WNBA MVPs in your career, would you consider each of those 3 seasons as dominant seasons for yourself?
No.
I can't. Bro, Sheryl Swoopes is willing to lie about her own career before she even admits that Caitlin is dominant.
But when Sue Bird speaks and says a team is about to shake things up, you don't roll your eyes, you take notes. Sue isn't some retired legend chasing clicks with hot takes. She's a certified basketball savant, and when she makes a call, it's not just an opinion, it's a prediction you'd be wise to believe. Her message about the Indiana Fever: crystal clear, they're not knocking on the door, they've already walked in and claimed their seat at the table. That's where Sheryl Swoopes completely missed the mark with her outdated, nobody wants to play in Indiana rant. She made it sound like Caitlin Clark stumbled into a basketball wasteland. But Swoopes didn't do her homework. This wasn't some overnight rebuild that magically appeared when Clark was drafted. No, the Fever have been grinding for years, stacking talent, taking their lumps, and laying the foundation while most people weren't paying attention. Clark was the spark, no doubt, but this fire was already smoldering.
About the experience, the champions that have been added to this one.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what everybody talked about when we were in the playoffs last year of, we really didn't have much experience at all playing in playoff games. I don't know what the exact number was, but we really lacked in that area. So just adding pieces of, players that have been in this league, they know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to get to the finals. They know what it takes to win championships. I think it's exactly what we needed in our locker room. So it's just exciting, but also they're not only really good basketball players, they're really great leaders and really great people. And I know the front office obviously really prioritized that and looking for the pieces that we wanted to add. So really thankful for that.
That's what Sue Bird sees. She's not getting swept up in the headline hype. She's looking under the hood. Indiana didn't just throw together a roster for social media buzz. They built a real team designed for long-term success. They've created an environment where Caitlin Clark can thrive without having to drop 35 points a night just to keep them afloat. This isn't one of those struggling franchises desperately hoping one rookie can save them. This is a well-oiled machine, and Clark is the turbo boost. Just look at their free agency moves. It tells you everything. The Fever used to be the WNBA's version of a rest stop. Now, they're a prime destination. Players aren't dodging Indiana like it's jury duty. They're circling it on their calendars. Playing for the Fever isn't a fallback anymore. It's a power move.
Sydney Colson is joining the Indiana Fever. What does that mean? Indiana is just being so greedy right now. They took DB. They took Natasha. Now they got Sydney Colson. Why would they take Sydney?
Why? Simple. National broadcasts, sold-out arenas, and the Caitlin Clark effect. But more than that, it's the promise of winning. Players know that teaming up with Clark means visibility. Your jersey on TV, your name in headlines, and your highlights all over social media. Clark doesn't hog the spotlight, she expands it. And Sue Bird knows that formula better than anyone. She lived in Seattle, first with Lauren Jackson, then later with Breanna Stewart and Jewel Lloyd. Now, she sees that same blueprint unfolding in Indiana. Only this time, it's coming together even faster.
I think Caitlin Clark is at that ascension point where she's going to be top of the MVP race. We're going to talk about her in terms of stat leaders later, but the way that the Indiana Fever just made a statement around Caitlin Clark and said, like, hey, we're pushing in the chips. We're ready to win now. And DeWanna Bonner's obviously, the face of the new pieces that have come in. So obviously that's going to be the biggest needle mover in what Drew said. The market has obviously.
But Sue isn't just watching the players. She's paying attention to the architect behind it all, Stephanie White. And White. She's not just some clipboard holder filling a seat. She's been to the mountaintop, felt the weight of expectations, and knows exactly how to develop raw talent into a championship caliber squad. She's not guessing, she's game planning.
The future is so bright, and our ultimate goal is to hang another banner in the field house. And our ultimate goal is to come back in here after we win that championship and celebrate again like we did in 2012.
Let's not forget, Stephanie White already has history with DeWanna Bonner, one of the most versatile and dangerous vets in the league. That familiarity, huge. The trust, already built in. And Bonner, she's not in Indiana for nostalgia or locker room morale. She's here to wreck opponents on both ends of the floor. At 6'4", with a smooth jumper, a nasty post game, and the length to guard anyone from point guards to centers, she's the perfect piece to complete a championship puzzle.
I think the biggest needle-moving free agent signing, which was also one of the more surprising moves for me, DeWanna Bonner to the Fever. That was one of the first dominoes that fell, in this off.
Now picture this. DeWanna Bonner, Aaliyah Boston, and Caitlin Clark on the floor together. Clark's pulling defenders out to the parking lot. Boston's dominating the paint like it's her personal space, and Bonner. She's attacking mismatches, switching on defense, and draining corner threes like it's just another day at the office. That's not just a team, that's a playoff nightmare. Bonner gives the Fever something most teams don't have: lineup flexibility. She can play the 4, the 3, and even the 2 in certain sets. On defense, she can switch, recover, rotate, whatever the situation calls for. Pair her with Boston in the front court, and suddenly, Indiana has a defensive wall that can still score from anywhere. Late game scenarios. The Fever now have closers on both ends of the court.
Look at the sort of the trend or theme of the Fever offseason, in my opinion, has been adding experience. And DeWanna Bonner has that. She's got a ton of playoff experience. She's obviously somebody who can score. She adds a lot to the defensive end because she's very mobile and she has a lot of length. So I think that's going to help them a lot.
And let's talk mindset. Clark didn't roll into the WNBA looking to fit in and take notes. She showed up with a pen and started rewriting the playbook. She's not some overwhelmed rookie just happy to be here. She's been the center of gravity since high school. She's dropped 40 in pressure-packed games like it's an off day. She's built for the big stage, and now she's bringing that same fearless energy to a team that's finally ready to match it. The Fever aren't dreaming about playoff spots. They're setting their sights on parades. While Sheryl Swoopes is busy pushing bedtime stories about locker room toxicity, Sue Bird is watching a dynasty forming right before her eyes.
The Fever, if you haven't been paying attention, they are really active in ensuring that Caitlin Clark and company have a true contending lineup next season. They have Caitlin Clark, they have Aaliyah Boston. They made sure that they re-signed Kelsey Mitchell. That was a big one. They acquired both Natasha Howard and DeWanna Bonner. They traded for Sophie Cunningham. They still have Lexi Hull. And now they have made a move that is literally my favorite of WNBA free agency. They have signed Sydney Colson, face of the WNBA.
And don't get it twisted. This isn't just about logo threes and highlight clips. It's about transformation. It's about how Clark changes everything around her. Take Aaliyah Boston, already a dominant force in the post, now operating with the kind of spacing only Clark can create. With defenders terrified of getting torched from 30 feet, Boston's got the paint to herself.
Are you in a position where you can add some pieces?
Yes, we are. We're definitely in a position. And I would think that if you are a smart basketball player and you watch the way she plays, you would want to play with her.
Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull, eating two, cutting lanes wide open. Defenders too worried about Clark to remember there are other shooters on the floor. One moment you're doubling Clark, the next Mitchell's slicing to the rim, or Hull's setting up in the corner with nobody in her zip code. Then there's DeWanna Bonner, still one of the WNBA's biggest matchup nightmares. She's not here for nostalgia or victory laps. She's here because she sees what Sue sees. Something real. Something championship caliber. Something that looks a lot like a dynasty in the making.
Well, the market would agree, right? Because after she was signed, they went from a plus 900 to like a plus 450, plus 500. And we saw, obviously that's not entirely Bonner, but it was Bonner and Howard kind of at the same time, or like very close to the same time. So the other thing is, I just think she's such a good fit for this team as like that Iguodala role, right? That the Warriors had back in their earlier runs. And she's almost like an overqualified Iguodala though, right? Like she can guard 1 through 5. She is going to be able to kind of leg off on those really, really tough defensive assignments on any given night because they have the depth they have.